Dad perfect events. After I dropped Tim off at the airport, our housekeeper Angela called me and said, "Mr. Miller, please check the cameras. Don't go home." I watched and witnessed the woman I had married 8 months ago standing on our driveway, smiling, while a strange man was preparing evidence to frame me. I was so shocked I nearly fainted. My name is Bradley Miller. I'm 58 years old, and that camera footage saved my life. Without it, I'd be in prison for a crime I didn't commit. Let me tell you how this all started and how I fought back. The fog was thick that March morning when I drove Tim to Portland International. My 22-year-old son sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window like he'd been doing for months. We hadn't talked much since I married Michelle 8 months ago. Tim never liked her, said she was trying to replace his mother's memory too fast. Sarah, my first wife, had died of cancer 18 months earlier after 28 years of marriage. We'd built our construction company together, Miller and Associates. Started in my garage in 1995, grew it into one of Portland's most trusted residential contractors. Sarah handled the books while I ran the crews. When cancer took her, I thought my world was over. Michelle Rodriguez came into my life through a grief support group. She was beautiful, understanding, said all the right things about loss and healing. We married quickly, maybe too quickly. Tim warned me, but I was lonely, and Michelle seemed like a second chance. "You sure about this semester abroad program?" I asked as we pulled into the airport departures. Tim grabbed his backpack without looking at me. "Yeah, Dad, I need some space to think. About everything." He meant about Michelle, about us, about how different our house felt now. Tim was a senior at Portland State, studying business, planning to join the company after graduation. But lately, he'd been distant, almost angry. "Tim, I know you miss your mom. I do too. But Michelle isn't trying to replace her." He finally looked at me. "Isn't she? She redecorated Mom's office, changed the garden Mom planted. Acts like she built this life with you." I didn't have a good answer. Michelle had been making changes, said it would help us move forward together. But maybe Tim was right. Maybe it was too much, too fast. "We'll talk when you get back, okay?" Tim nodded, shouldered his bag. For a second I thought he might hug me, like when he was younger. Instead, he just said, "Be careful, Dad. Something feels off about her." Then he disappeared into the crowd, leaving me sitting in Michelle's sedan. My truck was in the shop, watching my son walk away feeling like a stranger. My phone buzzed as I merged onto Highway 26. Angela Brown, our housekeeper. She'd worked for Sarah and me for 5 years, stayed on after Sarah passed, kept working when Michelle moved in. Angela was 55, had lived through her own hardships. Her daughter Rebecca had died of heart problems 3 years ago. I'd helped with the medical bills when insurance failed them. $85,000 from the business account. Never told Michelle about it. Angela never called unless something was important. She had a key, handled the house while we were gone, knew our routines better than we did. "Mr. Miller, you need to check the cameras right now." "What cameras?" "The security system, the ones at the house." Her voice was shaking. "Mr. Miller, don't come home until you do. Find somewhere safe first." My pulse kicked up. Angela wasn't dramatic. If she was calling like this, something was very wrong. "Angela, what happened?" "I can't explain over the phone. Just please check the cameras. Don't come home." The line went dead. I pulled into the first parking lot I saw, a strip mall near Gresham. My hands were unsteady as I opened our security app on my phone. We'd installed the system 3 years ago after some break-ins hit our neighborhood. 4 cameras, front porch, driveway, backyard, garage. Michelle had insisted on good coverage after Sarah died, said she felt safer. I scrolled to the garage feed and hit rewind. Timestamp showed 7:15 a.m., right after Tim and I had left for the airport. I'd been driving Michelle's car because my F-150 was getting the transmission fixed, supposed to pick it up tomorrow. What I saw made my blood turn to ice. There in grainy color was my pickup truck parked in our driveway. But that was impossible. My truck was at Jerry's auto shop across town. I'd dropped it off 3 days ago. 2 men stood next to a truck that looked exactly like mine. Same blue paint, same toolbox, same company decals on the sides. One guy I didn't recognize, dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low. The other one made my stomach drop. Richard Hayes. Early 40s, always wore expensive suits, carried himself like he owned every room he entered. Michelle had brought him home 6 months ago, introduced him as our new financial advisor, said he specialized in helping widowed people manage their assets and plan for the future. I watched Rick crouch beside the driver's side of the truck. The other man handed him something, a black package about the size of a shoebox, wrapped tight with duct tape. Rick didn't hesitate. He slid underneath the vehicle like he'd done this before. 90 seconds later, he emerged, brushing dirt off his suit jacket. The package was gone. The other man spoke into his phone, loud enough for the security mic to pick up. Package delivered. Target secured. Just like we planned. Rick pulled out his own phone and took photos. Multiple angles. Driver's side, rear bumper, license plate. He was documenting that it was my truck, my vehicle, my responsibility. Then both men walked away like nothing had happened. I replayed the footage 3 times, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Rick Hayes, the man my wife trusted with our financial future, had just planted something under what appeared to be my truck, something they wanted discovered, something that would destroy me. I switched to the front porch camera and rewound to 7:20 a.m. There was Michelle, stepping out in her usual business suit, coffee mug in hand. She looked toward the driveway where Rick and his partner worked. She didn't look surprised. She didn't call out. She didn't seem concerned. Instead, she smiled, small, satisfied, like she was watching a plan come together. Then she went back inside. I sat in that parking lot staring at my phone screen, world tilting. The woman I'd married 8 months ago. The woman I'd trusted with my grief and loneliness. The woman sleeping in the bed I'd shared with Sarah for 28 years. She'd just watched someone frame me for a crime I didn't commit. My phone buzzed, Michelle calling. I stared at her name on the screen, thumb hovering over the answer button. Part of me wanted to pick up, demand an explanation, scream, beg, do something. But that smile kept flashing in my mind, that satisfied, cold smile. I let it go to voicemail. I started the sedan and drove, mind racing. Couldn't go home, couldn't confront them yet. Didn't even know what they'd planned or what crime they were setting me up for. I was 58 years old, had built a successful business with my bare hands, owned half the block where I lived. Now I was running like a fugitive from my own life. 20 minutes later, I was back at Portland International, parking garage level 3. If they'd planted something in my truck, I needed to know what I was dealing with. But first, I had to figure out how they'd gotten my truck in the first place. I called Jerry's auto shop from the parking garage. Jerry, it's Brad Miller. Quick question about my F-150. You still have it? Yeah, Brad. Transmission's done, but we're waiting on a part for the exhaust. Should be ready tomorrow, like we said. Has anyone else been asking about it? Anyone come by to look at it? Silence. Then, funny you should ask. Yesterday some guy in a suit said he was your insurance adjuster. Needed photos for a claim, showed me some. Paperwork with your name on it. I let him take pictures, figured it was legit. My stomach dropped. What kind of pictures? Inside, outside, license plate, VIN number. Said he needed documentation for some accident report. Guy seemed professional. Knew your name and everything. Jerry, I never filed any insurance claim. I need you to lock that truck down. Don't let anyone near it. Jesus, Brad, you think someone's trying to steal it? Something like that? I'll be there tomorrow to pick it up. I hung up and leaned against a concrete pillar. Rick had photographed my truck at the shop, probably got copies of my registration and VIN. Then he'd found an identical truck, same make, model, year, color, and put my company decals on it. The truck in the driveway footage wasn't mine. It was a duplicate, which meant whatever they planted was in that fake truck, not my real one. But the photos Rick took would show the license plate, the company logos, everything that would make it look like mine. Perfect for framing me. I drove to a hardware store and bought what I needed. Latex gloves, plastic bags, a small tool kit, and a flashlight. Paid cash. The clerk didn't even look up. From there, I found the truck. It took 3 hours of driving around industrial areas where someone might abandon a vehicle temporarily. I found it parked behind a defunct warehouse in southeast Portland, right where someone would leave it until they were ready to tip off the police. The truck was locked, but 30 years in construction teaches you things. I had it open in 2 minutes. Under the driver's seat, exactly where someone would hide contraband, I found it. A shoebox wrapped in duct tape, heavy. Inside, 6 plastic bags of white powder, maybe 30 grams each. Each bag had RH written on it in black marker, Richard Hayes' initials. I didn't need to taste it. Cocaine or something close enough that it wouldn't matter to a judge. Street value maybe $15,000. Enough to put me away for years, especially with my company vehicle being involved. They could claim I was dealing using my construction business as a front. I photographed everything, then sealed it back up. Left the truck exactly as I'd found it. Now I knew what they were planning, but I needed more. I needed to know why. My phone rang as I drove away. Angela again. Mr. Miller, where are you? Safe. Angela, I found what they planted. Drugs in a fake version of my truck. Dios mio, I was afraid of this. You knew, I suspected. Mr. Miller, I have something for you. A USB drive. I've been copying files from Mrs. Miller's laptop every time I clean her office. She never logs out, never locks it. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What kind of files? Emails. Lots of emails between her and Mr. Hayes, bank statements, documents I don't understand. I started copying them 2 months ago when I heard them talking late at night. Talking about what? About money, about debts, about needing to move fast before you found out. Angela's voice dropped. Mr. Miller, I think Mrs. Miller is in serious financial trouble, the kind that makes people desperate. That explained a lot. Michelle had expensive tastes, drove a new BMW, wore designer clothes, went to high-end spas every week. I'd assumed she had her own money from her previous life. Never asked too many questions, figured it wasn't my business what she spent. Can we meet? Yes, but carefully. They think I'm homesick today. I can meet you at the rest stop on Highway 26, mile marker 42, 1 hour. The rest stop was nearly empty when I arrived. Just a couple of truckers and Angela's Honda parked by the picnic tables. She looked nervous, kept checking the road behind us. I brought sandwiches, she said, setting a paper bag on the table. Figured you weren't eating much today. I wasn't hungry, but the gesture meant everything. Angela had risked her job, maybe her safety, to help me. Why are you doing this? She was quiet for a moment. You remember, Rebecca? My daughter? Of course, Rebecca Brown. Heart problems since birth. Finally needed surgery at 28, but the insurance company found a way to deny the claim. Experimental procedure, they said. Not covered. When she needed that surgery, I came to you crying, begging for a loan. $85,000. You didn't hesitate. Wrote the check that same day. Told Mrs. Sarah it was for new equipment. I remembered. Sarah never questioned it. Trusted me to make the right decisions for our business, our employees, our friends. Rebecca lived 6 more months because of that surgery. 6 months I got to hold my baby, talk to her, tell her I loved her. You gave me that time. Angela's eyes filled. Mrs. Miller, she's not a good woman. She sees people like furniture, useful or not useful. I've been watching her for months, and I know she's planning something terrible. She handed me the USB drive. Everything I could copy is on here. I hope it's enough. I drove to my dad's old hunting cabin in the Mount Hood. Forest. Michelle had been there once, 2 years ago, when I was thinking about selling it. She'd taken one look at the no electricity, no running water, no cell service situation, and told me to get rid of it. I'd kept it anyway, paid the property taxes, never mentioned it again. Now I was grateful for that decision. The cabin was exactly as I'd left it, dusty, cold, but private. I fired up my laptop using the portable battery I kept for emergencies and plugged in Angela's USB drive. 347 files, 5 months of emails between Michelle and Rick, financial documents, bank statements showing transactions I'd never seen, legal documents I'd never signed. I started reading and felt sick. The first emails were professional, investment advice, portfolio planning, retirement strategies. Then, around December, the tone changed. From Michelle, how much longer do we have to pretend? I'm tired of playing the grieving stepmother. From Rick, patience. Widowers with assets require careful handling. Rush it and they get suspicious. January emails revealed more. Bradley's asking questions about the withdrawals. We need to move to Phase 2 soon. Phase 2 is ready when you are. The debt situation can't wait much longer. What debt situation? I said out loud to the empty cabin. I found out 20 pages later. Michelle owed $180,000 to various creditors. Credit cards, business loans, something called Rodriguez. consulting LLC that had failed spectacularly 3 years ago. She was broke, worse than broke, desperate. She'd married me for my money, the construction company, the house, the life insurance policy Sarah had insisted I increase when she got sick. I was worth about $800,000 total, enough to solve all Michelle's problems and set her up for life. But she couldn't just divorce me. Oregon was a no-fault state, but prenups still mattered. We'd signed one at her suggestion, said she wanted to protect her own assets. What I hadn't realized was that it protected mine too. In a normal divorce, she'd get very little, so they'd chosen a different route. Frame me for drug trafficking, have me arrested, discredited, and imprisoned. Then Michelle could claim the assets as my innocent wife, sell everything while I was locked up, and disappear with Rick to start over somewhere else. The timeline was laid out in detail. Plant the drugs, tip off police, have me arrested. Michelle plays the shocked wife, gets sympathy from the community. Rick helps her manage the crisis, liquidates assets quickly to save what they can. Within 6 months, everything would be sold and they'd be gone. But there was one problem they hadn't solved yet: Tim. The emails about my son made me sick. What about the kid? He might ask questions. Tim's easy to handle. College debt, some gambling problems he's ashamed of. I can buy his silence. Maybe even get him to testify about his stepfather's erratic behavior since his mother died. How much to flip him? $50,000 should do it. Pays off his debts. Gives him a reason to cooperate. They'd targeted my son, used his financial struggles and grief over his mother to manipulate him into helping destroy me. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark cabin, listening to wind through the pine trees. Michelle and Rick had planned every detail. The frame-up, the asset grab, even turning my own son against me. But they'd made one mistake. They'd underestimated Angela Brown. And now I had proof of everything. I called Tim that night from the cabin. He answered on the second ring, voice cautious. "Dad, where are you?" "Michelle's been calling everyone, says she's worried sick." "Tim, I need you to listen very carefully. I need you to hear the whole truth." For the next 2 hours, I walked my son through everything. The camera footage of Rick planting evidence, the emails between Michelle and Rick planning my destruction, the financial records showing stolen money, the pattern of targeting other widowers. I watched Tim's face change as he realized what they'd done. First confusion, then anger, then something that looked like relief. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how deep this went. Tell me about the gambling debt." Tim's shoulders sagged. "It's real. Started small. Online poker, sports betting. By the time I realized I was in trouble, I owed $45,000. Credit cards, student loans, some offshore sites that don't mess around when you can't pay. Why didn't you come to me? Because I was ashamed. Because you and Mom raised me better than that. Because I thought you'd be disappointed." He wiped his eyes. "Rick found out somehow. Showed up at my dorm 3 months ago. Said he could make it all disappear. Said it was an investment in our family's future. The pieces clicked together. What did he want in return? Just to be honest, if anyone asked about your mental state. Said you'd been acting strange since Mom died, that Michelle was worried. He made it sound like I'd just be telling the truth about grief affecting you. And you believed him." "Yeah, because Michelle backed it up. She'd call me every week, tell me you were having mood swings, paranoid episodes, that she was scared sometimes." Tim looked at me directly. "Dad, they made me think you were falling apart, that I needed to protect Michelle from you. The manipulation was perfect. Isolate me from my son, make him think I was unstable, use his guilt and fear to control his testimony. Meanwhile, they poisoned my coffee and made the paranoia real. How much did Rick pay off? All of it. $45,000, just like that. Said it was a family loan, no interest, no pressure. I should have known it was too good to be true. I reached across the table and squeezed his shoulder. You were scared and desperate. That's exactly what they counted on. We spent another hour planning. Tim would go home, act normal, not let Michelle know we'd talked. I'd gather more evidence, then confront them when I had everything I needed. Dad, what if this doesn't work? Then we'll figure out something else. But Tim, whatever happens, I need you to know, you're not the enemy here. You were manipulated by professionals. The next day I called Stephen Collins. Steve lived 3 doors down, had been my neighbor for 15 years. Retired phone company technician, New electronics better than anyone I trusted. Steve, I need help. Can't explain over the phone. Where are you? I gave him directions to the cabin. An hour later, his pickup was crunching up the gravel road. Steve looked at everything. The footage, the emails, the financial records. When the last video finished, he sat back in his chair and shook his head. Brad, that woman's poison. Pure poison. What do you need? More cameras. I need to catch them in the act, confessing on tape. We drove to an electronics store in Hood River, bought 3 high-definition wireless cameras with crystal-clear audio, $850 cash. Steve had locksmith skills from his phone company days, knew how to get in and out of places without leaving traces. That night, we installed them. Kitchen counter where Michelle made her private calls. Master bathroom where I'd seen her hide a second phone. Home office where she did her financial planning with Rick. Steve's work was perfect. Tiny cameras, invisible unless you knew where to look. Motion activated, cloud storage, remote access from my laptop. You sure about this, Brad? Steve, they're planning to destroy me completely. Prison, bankruptcy, losing Tim forever. I have to know exactly what I'm fighting. Within 48 hours, I had everything I needed and more. The cameras caught Michelle and Rick in my home office, going over their timeline like generals planning a war. Packages planted, photos are taken. Anonymous tip goes to police tomorrow morning, Rick said, looking at papers spread across my desk. Once Bradley's arrested, we move fast. House goes on the market immediately. I've already got a buyer lined up. Michelle poured herself wine from a bottle I'd bought to celebrate our 6-month anniversary. What about the business? Miller and Associates gets liquidated. Construction assets, equipment, client contracts, everything. My contact at the bank will expedite the loans I've secured in your name. By the time Bradley makes bail, you'll control everything. And if he fights it? Rick smiled, cold and calculating. He's a grieving widower with drugs in his truck and a history of mental instability. His own son will testify about his erratic behavior. No court will side with him. The worst moment came when they talked about other victims. How many times have you done this? Michelle asked. This is my 4th successful widow operation in 3 years. Grieving people make perfect marks. Desperate for connection, vulnerable to manipulation, usually have decent assets built up over long marriages. Michelle laughed. Actually laughed. Bradley was so easy. The grief support group was like shopping for victims. I had to stop the video. Sat there in the cabin, hands shaking with rage. Michelle hadn't found me by accident. She'd hunted me, targeted me specifically because I was vulnerable and wealthy. But the most damaging footage came from a phone call Michelle made to Tim. Tim, honey, I need to ask you something important. If the police talk to you about your father's behavior, I need you to be completely honest. Tim's voice through the speaker. What do you mean? The mood swings, the paranoia, the way he's been acting since your mother died. I'm worried he might be having some kind of breakdown. Michelle, I don't know. Dad seems sad, but not crazy. Sweetheart, I live with him. I see things you don't see when you're away at school. He talks to himself sometimes. Gets angry over nothing. Last week he accused me of stealing money. Dad accused you of stealing $50,000 from the business account. Can you believe that? I would never steal from family. But he was so convinced, so angry, it scared me. The lie was smooth, practiced. Michelle had stolen $47,000, but she flipped it, made herself the victim of my paranoid accusations. Tim, if something happens to me, if your father does something he can't take back, I need you to tell the truth about what you've witnessed. Can you do that for me? Yeah, okay. If you're really scared, maybe you should call someone. I'm hoping it won't come to that. But thank you, sweetheart. You're such a good boy. I saved every second of footage. Hours of evidence showing premeditated conspiracy, financial fraud, emotional manipulation of my son. They'd built an airtight case to destroy me, but now I had an even better case to destroy them. Time for the confrontation. I called Michelle from the burner phone. We need to talk. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. at the house. Her reply came fast. Fine. But I'm bringing my lawyer. Bring whoever you want. This ends tomorrow. I texted Tim. Come home tomorrow night, 7:30. Don't tell Michelle we talked. Then I called Kevin Thompson, my tech guy, and set up something special, a live stream. If I was going down, the whole world would watch. If I was fighting back, I wanted witnesses. Kevin, I need 1,000 people to watch this happen in real time. Brad, you sure about this? Once it's live, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. They want to destroy me in private. I'm going to expose them in public. That night, I sat in the cabin planning every word, every moment. Tomorrow, Michelle and Rick would walk into my house thinking they were attending my surrender. Instead, they'd be walking into their own trial, the house I'd built with my own hands where Sarah and I had been happy for 28 years, where Tim had grown up. It was about to become a courtroom, and I was going to be the judge. The confrontation happened in my living room at 8 p.m. sharp. The house I'd built with my own hands where Sarah and I had raised Tim, where we'd been happy for 28 years. Tonight it would either be my courtroom or my funeral. I'd arrived an hour early to set up. Kevin's live stream was ready, cameras positioned, audio tested, chat moderation prepared. Tim was hiding in the kitchen, out of sight, but ready when I needed him. Michelle walked in first, confident as always, wearing the navy business suit I'd bought her for our wedding. Behind her came Rick in his expensive charcoal suit, briefcase in hand. They thought they were attending my surrender. "Hello, Bradley," Michelle said, like we were meeting for dinner. "You look tired." "I am tired, Michelle. Tired of the lies." Rick set his briefcase down, pulled out a legal folder. "Bradley, we're here to help you through this difficult situation. I understand there's been some confusion about finances." "Confusion?" I opened my laptop on the coffee table. "Is that what we're calling it?" Michelle glanced at the screen, saw the viewer count climbing. "What is this?" "This is 800 people who've been following your story. They know about the planted drugs. They know about the stolen money. They want to see how this ends." Rick stepped forward. "Turn off the camera, Bradley. No." The viewer count hit 1,200. Comments were pouring in. People from the blog Kevin had created, neighbors who'd shared the story, strangers who'd stumbled across the stream. I clicked play on the first video, Rick and his partner planting the package under my truck, Michelle smiling on the porch, watching it happen. Michelle's face went pale. "That's not what it looks like." "What does it look like, Michelle?" "I don't know what Rick was doing. I had nothing to do with that." I played the second video, Michelle and Rick in our bedroom, planning my arrest, discussing asset liquidation, laughing about how easy I'd been to manipulate. The chat exploded with outrage. Comments flying faster than I could read. Viewers sharing the stream, tagging news outlets, demanding justice. "Still don't know what Rick was doing?" I asked. Michelle lunged for the laptop. I stepped between her and the screen. "It's too late, Michelle. Everyone knows." Rick's composure finally cracked. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. There are people involved in this who don't forgive. Is that a threat? It's a fact." The viewer count hit 2,000. Then Tim walked through the kitchen doorway. Michelle's face went white as paper. "Tim, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to tell the truth, Michelle." Tim looked directly at the camera, at the 2,100 people now watching. "My name is Tim Miller. I'm 22 years old. These people manipulated me into testifying against my father. Rick Hayes paid off my $45,000 gambling debt in exchange for false testimony about my dad's mental state. They told me my father was unstable from grief. They lied to me for months." Michelle reached for him. "Tim, sweetheart, you don't understand. Don't touch me." Tim pulled away. "You made me think my dad was dangerous, that I needed to protect you from him. You used my mother's death against us." His voice broke, but he kept going. "My father is the best man I know. He built this company from nothing. He saved lives, including our housekeeper's daughter, when insurance failed her. He loved my mother for 28 years and grieved her honestly. And you turned that grief into a weapon." The chat was going wild. Comments of support for Tim, outrage at Michelle, demands for their arrest. I played the final video. Michelle's phone call to Tim, manipulating him with lies about my paranoid accusations and mood swings. "I never accused you of stealing, Michelle. I questioned some withdrawals, quietly, privately. But you twisted that into evidence of mental breakdown." Michelle was crying now, makeup running. "Bradley, please. I made mistakes, but I love you. You love my bank account." Rick grabbed his briefcase. "We're leaving." "No, you're not. Sirens outside. I'd called Detective Patricia Smith 3 hours ago, sent her links to everything. The blog, the videos, the financial records." Detective Smith walked in with two uniformed officers. She'd spent the afternoon reviewing evidence, coordinating with the DA's office. Michelle Rodriguez Miller, Richard Hayes. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, drug possession with intent to frame, and financial theft. They read Michelle her rights as they cuffed her. She was sobbing, mascara streaked, the confident woman completely gone. Bradley, please don't let them do this. We can work this out. I'll give back the money. I met her eyes one last time. You didn't just steal money, Michelle. You stole 2 years of Tim's trust in me. You poisoned my coffee every morning for months. You turned my grief into your profit opportunity. Rick remained cold as they arrested him. Just before they let him out, he looked at me. This isn't over. There are others involved, people who invested in this operation. Detective Smith stepped forward. Is that another threat, Mr. Hayes? Rick said nothing as they led him away. The live stream chat was celebrating. Du tukstantiai ashtuoni shimtai. Viewers watching justice happen in real time. Comments pouring in from neighbors, strangers, people sharing their own stories of being targeted by predators. Tim and I sat on the couch as the house emptied out. The stream was still running, chat still active. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you. You were manipulated by professionals, son. They've done this before. How many others? Rick mentioned 4 operations in 3 years. We'll let the police figure out the rest. I looked at the camera, at the 3,000 people still watching. My name is Bradley Miller. For the past week, I've been fighting for my life, my business, and my relationship with my son. Tonight, we won. But the real victory isn't Michelle and Rick going to prison. It's that Tim and I are talking again. 6 weeks later, the trial was over. Michelle got 4 years in state prison. Rick got 5 years federal for running a multi-state operation targeting grieving widowers. The judge ordered full restitution of stolen funds plus damages. Tim transferred back to Portland State, moved home while finishing his degree. He works part-time at Miller & Associates now, learning the business from the ground up, pays his own bills, rebuilds trust one day at a time. Dad, you think you'll ever date again? He asked me last week over coffee in our kitchen. Maybe someday. Not anytime soon. I need to remember who I am when I'm not grieving. Mom would want you to be happy eventually. Your mother would want me to be smart, to trust my gut, to listen when people who love me try to warn me. Tim smiled, like when I said something felt off about Michelle. Especially then. The live stream video went viral. 2.3 million views in the first month. News outlets picked it up. I did a few interviews about financial predators targeting grieving spouses, warning signs to watch for, how to protect yourself. The most important message, trust but verify. Even in grief, especially in grief, keep your eyes open. Watch your finances. Listen to family who express concerns. And remember that real love doesn't isolate you from the people who've always been in your corner. Angela still comes by twice a week, won't let me pay her extra despite everything she did to save me. You saved my daughter once, she says. I saved you once. We're even. Miller & Associates is stronger than ever. Tim's learning fast, has good instincts for the business. Maybe someday it'll be Miller & Son instead of Miller & Associates. The house feels different now. Lighter. Michelle's decorating changes are gone. Tim helped me restore Sarah's garden, put back the family photos Michelle had stored away. Not because we're living in the past, but because we're honoring the foundation we came from. I sleep better now, drink coffee without wondering what's in it. Check my accounts regularly, but don't obsess. Most importantly, I talk to Tim every day. Really talk, not just surface conversation. 2 months ago, he brought a girl home from school. Sarah Peterson, studying engineering, wants to work construction after graduation. Tim was nervous introducing her, worried I'd think he was moving too fast. Dad, I want you to meet someone important to me. But if you think anything seems off, I want you to tell me. I'm done ignoring warning signs. That's when I knew we'd really healed. Not because we'd moved past the betrayal, but because we'd learned from it. Together. The story went viral because people needed to hear it. Middle-aged folks, especially, facing loss and vulnerability. Comments came from widows and widowers sharing their own close calls, adult children recognizing manipulation attempts, financial advisors explaining red flags to watch for. Most importantly, Families talking more openly about money, about concerns, about trusting each other enough to speak up when something feels wrong. Michelle and Rick destroyed themselves trying to destroy me. Tim and I rebuilt ourselves stronger than before. That's the real victory. Trust but verify. Love but stay alert. And never, ever let anyone isolate you from the people who truly have your back. The coffee tastes better when you make it yourself anyway. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most teach us the most valuable lessons, not through their love, but through their betrayal. The strongest families aren't the ones that never face deception, but the ones that come together to fight it when it arrives at their door.